After years of contesting Britain's political centre ground, the opposition Labour Party on Thursday afternoon agreed on what is likely to be its most left-wing election manifesto in more than 3 decades, complete with some eye-catching policies intended to shore up its core vote. The document will be published next week, but a draft was widely leaked on Thursday as about 80 members of a Labour committee prepared to meet to discuss it. The draft revealed plans to renationalize some rail and energy companies, scrap university tuition fees and put in place big increases in spending on health and social care. Later, Labour's leader, Jeremy Corbyn, said that the manifesto had been approved in an amended form by a party committee, but he would not say which elements had changed. "Our manifesto will be an offer, and we believe the policies in it are very popular," Mr. Corbyn said, adding that there had been unanimous agreement on a programme that would transform the lives of many people in our society. The leaked draft, initially published by the Daily Mirror, the Daily Telegraph, the BBC and other news outlets, suggested that Mr. Corbyn, a left-wing politician, had broken decisively with the centrist legacy of most of his recent Labour predecessors, most notably with that of the former Prime Minister Tony Blair, who won 3 general elections. Instead, Mr. Corbyn's strategy contains echoes of that of Bernie Sanders, the United States Senator who ignited liberal passions in his unsuccessful race for the Democratic presidential nomination last year. Labour's manifesto also serves the more prosaic function of shoring up the party's core vote as it approaches a difficult electoral contest on June 8. Motivating those supporters, and achieving a decent election result, could be crucial for Mr. Corbyn, who says he wants to stay on as leader, even if he loses, as pollsters predict. A spokesman for Labour, reached by telephone on Thursday, declined to authenticate the document, saying the party's policy was not to comment on leaks. But Andrew Gwynn, Labour's national elections and campaign coordinator, speaking to the BBC on Thursday morning, did not deny the document's authenticity. Labour has not yet outlined how it would pay for its pledges, though Mr. Gwynn said that all costs would be accounted for when the final manifesto document was published next week. The Conservatives and Labour's other opponents seized on the leak as evidence that the party lacked discipline. "This is a total shambles," the Conservative Party said in a statement. Jeremy Corbyn's plans to unleash chaos on Britain have been revealed. "Jobs will be lost, families will be hit, and our economic security damaged for a generation if Jeremy Corbyn and the coalition of chaos are ever let anywhere near the keys to Downing Street." Britons will vote on June 8 in a snap general election called by Prime Minister Theresa May. Mrs May wants to increase her slim parliamentary majority before negotiating Britain's withdrawal from the European Union, known as Brexit. According to surveys, her Conservative Party is well ahead of Labour. Mr. Corbyn remains unpopular, even among many of his own lawmakers. Last year, some tried unsuccessfully to unseat him. There have been fewer public displays recently of party divisions, but the leak of the draft manifesto was a reminder that a lack of unity and discipline still exists in the party just weeks before the election. The leaked document, nevertheless, gives a clear indication of the type of campaign that Labour is likely to pursue, and the clear political dividing lines it will create. For years, Labour's left-wing politicians have argued that the party has been unsuccessful because it has not offered voters a sufficiently radical alternative to Conservative policies, and that theory looks likely to be tested in the coming elections. The draft says that Labour would renew the Trident nuclear submarine system, which Mr. Corbyn has opposed, but that any Labour Prime Minister would be extremely cautious about deploying it. There would be a ban on so-called zero-hours contracts, under which employers are not obliged to offer employees a minimum amount of work. The Royal Mail would be renationalised, as would rail companies, and the draft proposed caps on energy prices. Mr. Gwynn also said that in each region there should be a state-run energy firm. On Brexit, the document says that Labour will reject no deal as viable, a departure from Mrs. May's stance. She has threatened to walk away from negotiations with the European Union if she does not get the accord she wants. The draft also proposes raising income taxes for the top 5% of earners to fund greater spending on health care. John McDonnell, Labour's economics spokesman, has suggested that those earning more than £80,000, or just over $100,000, would be asked for a modest increase in tax payments, with bigger increases for those who earn £150,000 or more. Overall, the agenda suggests that Labour's primary objective is to shore up its core vote to avoid a big defeat, rather than seeking to persuade any wavering Conservative supporters. Mrs. May, for her part, has promised to spend more on defence, announcing that a Conservative government would meet its NATO spending target but would also increase the military budget by at least 0.5% above inflation in every year. The Conservatives were not the only ones to deride the leaked manifesto. Tommy Shepherd, a lawmaker for the Scottish National Party, said in a statement, "The very fact that this draft manifesto has been leaked shows how divided and chaotic the Labour Party are." As if the leak were not enough, as Mr. Corbyn arrived on Thursday for the meeting to discuss the manifesto, the car in which he was travelling ran over the foot of a BBC cameraman, the broadcaster reported. The cameraman, Giles Wooltorton, has been hospitalised. Most observers believe Labour's new manifesto is the most left-wing since the 1983 general election, when the party lost badly. That platform included more sweeping nationalisation and unilateral nuclear disarmament, and one Labour lawmaker at the time described the 1983 manifesto as the longest suicide note in history.